Your debut solo album, Internal Affairs, is absolutely legendary. It was released on Rawkus in '99 and has endured more than 20 years and was finally released in streaming in 2019. But the after story of that album, from Raucus selling to Geffen and you refusing to record for them, to Simon Says leading to a lawsuit, is really connected to a difficult time in your career. How do you feel about that album in retrospect, and what are your favorite memories of the production process?
Oh man, I love the record. When I say record, I mean album. And the process was grueling. It was my first solo album, so I'm learning the process of doing it on my own. So I thought I would, like on some Rocky Balboa shit, just take it back to, home recording, hooked up with Lee Stone, who produced like half of the album and co-produced on the record. And, he had a home studio with a microphone in the closet. And I would ride my bike to his crib every day to work on the album. And I thought that was a good vibe because even though we were an underground group and organized, we were in Battery studios with budgets and food budgets and car services. It was kind of like going back to the roots, the straight beginning, to kind of record in the way that me and Lee Stone recorded that record. And I thought it was fitting because I wanted to challenge myself to see if I was really up to the task of being a solo artist. So that process was dope. In terms of, Simon Says, I just felt like what was going on in the context of what was on radio at the time. We had places to break records in New York at the time. So, you really have to put that into context. And I knew that one of the things I wanted to do was see people in the neighborhood and in the club move to records I was making. So, that was important. But it's also important to remember that DJs were breaking records back then in clubs, and we don't have that in New York anymore. So I had that in mind. I was going out a lot. I would see what would move the crowd and what they would respond to. And in the essence of traditional MCs, I wanted to write something that the casual head would say the rhymes. Because I enjoyed, like, as a fan of hip hop, like learning, an LL Cool J verse or a popular verse and performing it in the mirror. So I always wanted a song like that. So the approach to writing Simon Says on the writing side was like, you got to tell people what the fuck to do and be forward in this chorus. But on the verses, I want to kind of write these verses in a way where people could join in and I could point the mic at the crowd and they can say the rhymes to me, lining up to the lines or to the 4-bar measure of the song. So that was the thought behind writing the record.
That's so brilliant and so interesting that you say that because I've heard Jay-Z talking about his writing process behind Give It To Me with him and Pharrell. And he was saying how he realized at that time in hip hop that the verse is actually the hook. The verse is what people get excited in hip hop records. The verse is what people get excited about singing along with. So he talked about writing, starting at that point to writing his verse as if the verse was the hook. And that's why you hear him throw in the Carl Thomas, I wish I never met her at all. He's like, it's about to go down. You know what I'm saying? And then these things become hooks and then somebody samples and loops that and that becomes a song. It's about to go down. It's, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate hearing you break that down. I went to a Motley Crue concert once and I was what writer Greg Tate referred to as a fly boy in the buttermilk. I was the only black person in this amphitheater watching Crue, right? And Tommy Lee, world famous drummer for Motley Crue, starts doing his drum solo. And as he's doing his drum solo, somehow they had it rigged so he's flying through the air. And he's in this contraption drumming, right? And he's drumming upside down. And he's spinning as he's playing the drums. And then the crowd, as if that wasn't enough, he then goes into Simon Says. And the band goes and they go dun 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 dun, and then he starts going into that shit, and I'm just like, wow. Pharoahe Monch made one of the greatest hip hop songs, not one of the greatest hip hop songs, greatest songs ever of all time. It's so iconic. I remember being at Raucus at the time. The vibe was like, the vibe from Company Flow was independent as fuck. Fuck the radio. We don't need radio hit. Fuck all that. We don't need Hot 97, Funkmaster Flex, none of that. And then Definition came out, and Flex was like, I like Definition. He started playing Definition a little bit. But then Busta Rhymes brought Simon Says to Flex, and that became the record of that summer. And then Raucus Philosophy, and I love you, Jared, but this is what happened. Raucus Philosophy was like, fuck that independent as fuck shit. We need a radio hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I remember they was like, we gonna spend what we gotta spend on the video. We gonna roll out the whole, we gonna get this radio hit cracking. Tell me about what was going on with you as an artist as you were becoming sort of the radio hit face of Raucus at that time.
I mean, I wanted that, like, not
Word.
radio, not to change this, but I wanted to compete with records that I was hearing that were being touted and that were, you know, club bangers. I felt like I could compete with that. I felt like we could compete with it. I felt like not easy in the sense to do, because obviously those records are not easy to do, or else everybody would do them. But I just think in that moment and in that context, I needed to be in the tunnel as well. I needed to be in everybody's car as well. And I was like, you know, I think I could give you that without losing who I am, and also push an agenda forward for myself, to say things in that chorus like, yeah, I said it, you know, rubbing your titties and things like that, to push the bar for me to be able to expand a little bit as an artist. I also learned in that same context from you guys, in most, not to chase that. Like, I've never attempted to do a fucking Simon Says 2. Like, it was a thing I did.
Simon Says 2 versus King Kong this time.
Right. Exactly. Like, as an artist, it was, and I think it fit the ride that album took you on. If you go from first song to second song, you know, when I heard the sample, I looped it up. I knew what it was as soon as I looped it up, and I felt, you know, vibes from it. My hair stood up, and I said to myself, you know, maybe going back to Paul C, saying to me, you can only fuck this record up. You know, you need to stay in rhythm, you need to stay in pocket, and you need to tell people what to do. Before you write anything down, you know, because the old MC would have wrote 24 bars before coming up with a chorus. Before you write anything down, let's get this chorus. When you go into your verse, like you said, I want the crowd to say, you know, I want to be able to point the mic at the crowd. I want to see what that shit feels like. So what's the fervor? What's the energy and the personality? You know, I was watching a lot of Italian movies at the time, so that pitch on there is a little high because I'm like, you know, get the fuck up.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like an attitude.
That's crazy.
An attitude on the shit that I was trying to embody for that particular song. Yeah.
I don't remember how old I was when that song came out, but I do remember not knowing what the heck girls are supposed to rub on, because they didn't say obviously titties. And I was like, what? I didn't realize, that's another song that I heard when I was adult. And I was like, oh, rubbing your titties. All right, I got it now.
You know, Snoop and them was out at the time. That's not why I did it, but, you know, I thought that, you know, women could participate outside of the shit feeling misogynistic or just downright disrespectful. It was participatory in the act of the
We're all consenting adults here.
Yeah.
All consenting adults. I went on tour with you when that record was out, Pharoahe. And I seen a lot of titties in the audience. So thank you for bringing titties to the Underground Rap Showcase. on the Spicker Couture back in the
We
day.
love titties here at People's Party, so bring them on.
What we done started. Look at what we done started. This the people party. When opportunity knocking, then young nigga move that door. Whoa, get your foot stuck in it, call me young, go get it. Now you can't fuck with it, might as well roll with it. What's the word?